Hello and welcome to the Friday wrap up here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is March 7th, 2025, and we have the Fed's statements out of the way. Powell talking today. We have the crypto summit out of the way. We also got the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve has now been issued via executive order. And just a quick moment before we get into price action, I do want to kind of clear up maybe a few key points about the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, if you'll give me just a brief few minutes here. Not even a few minutes. Trump delivered exactly what he said he would when he was on stage in Bitcoin 2024. And that was to establish a Bitcoin Strategic Reserve utilizing the already held Bitcoin in U.S. custody via seizure or forfeiture. And in this case, he's actually gone one step further in opening up the door for additional accumulation that is budget neutral. And I think that this is something that people are getting confused with another portion of this executive order or presidential action, if you will. And that is a strategic stockpile of cryptos, and that is separate from the strategic reserve. So there's a reserve that is Bitcoin that can be added to if it is budget neutral, which the Treasury is exploring options for adding to that reserve. Now, the stockpile is any other forfeited or seized assets by the U.S. government. It will not be added to by the Treasury, but will also be overseen by the Treasury. So there's a little bit of confusion surrounding that. There's maybe a little bit of even dismay from some hardened Bitcoiners that maybe were just projecting what they wanted to see and not what he actually promised. Because shortly after Trump spoke, Cynthia Lummis came out and spoke at Bitcoin Nashville, and she had mentioned that she was putting the Bitcoin Act to the floor. That's also been through committee, and they're going to be talking about that on Tuesday. Now, this is a two-pronged approach for adding to the Treasury Reserve for Bitcoin, and that is that the budget neutral strategy would essentially allow for like any budget allocation to be used to get more Bitcoin for the strategic reserve from any sector of the government, not just the Treasury. It's that the Treasury would be working with other departments within the government to accumulate in that case. And there's a lot. This is massive, by the way. This means that Bitcoin can be added as a reserve asset held by the Treasury and overseen by the Treasury Department, without Congress at this point. But we also have the Bitcoin Act that Cynthia Lummis has put out there and is on the floor of the Senate and has gone through committee and has been approved. Right. And there's going to be some talk about it next Tuesday. And that is the actual Bitcoin accumulation. That is a structured buying and holding plan with a cap on it that would be met. And once met, there is basically a 20-year drawdown period if and when there would be any type of drawdown that they would want to do. That's when the clock would start, is basically when they decided to draw down that actual reserve utilizing the Bitcoin Act. Now, this is really smart, in my opinion, to kind of do exactly what he did and include the language that he did in the executive order. So this is a very Bitcoin-focused executive order. And for Bitcoiners, I think this is a very good thing. And now, price action. A lot is being made about the move down and kind of the sentiment of what it seemed many wanted to see. I guess maybe they wanted him to add to the reserve via executive order, which he is opening the door wide open. And I think it's even more powerful than the actual Bitcoin Act itself. And that's that's something that I can debate with those of you on stages or something like that if you do disagree and have a different viewpoint that you'd like to enlighten me with. But in this case, price action, we kind of talked about this on Wednesday. We were looking for either a higher high above $95,000 here to break the downtrend or another lower high. And now we do have another lower high that was locked in with the closure of the Friday candle. Of course, it's still Friday for me, but the Saturday session is open here. Now, Bitcoin came back up, got above the basis, came down, put in a higher low. So we do have a higher low in place still on a closing basis. Now, the Saturday candle is down below the close open here at 86,161. But, it's a long session to go still with 20 hours and 41 minutes left. What do bulls want to see? Well, bulls want to see a break of $93,000 now on a close. And that would break the downtrend, preferably in a higher low fashion, right? So at minimum, I would say higher low as it relates to this $81,444 $81,444 low right here. That would be preferable for the bulls, and especially on closing higher lows, that would look even better structurally, but it's kind of a tight structure down here, so it really doesn't matter in my opinion. Bulls just need to close now above $93,000 to break the downtrend. It shouldn't really matter as long as Bitcoin is trading and closing candles above $78,000 from here. If we do see like it's already at mid 80s. The $80,000 to $82,000 area kind of break down. Essentially, this wick low lost, and around $81,000 especially. Bitcoin is either running or is more likely to run this low at around 78. Obviously below 80, it's probably already running $78,000 or getting close. Any closes below 80, I'm looking for it to get ran if it hasn't been run. And then we start looking down further to, $75,000 to $70,000. And as I've mentioned before, a retest of this structure on the weekly, of course, and the daily, the high side of the prior accumulation last year. We're looking at from this high here at around, I think it's like $68,000 to around that 73,835. You can just generally call it, look for around, 70 to 75. We're looking, below 78, we're looking at 75, and kind of price to play between 75 and 80. Anywhere below 75, we're looking likely for a retest. I would say initially it take around, mark the wrong candle there. We'll go for the candle close over here. Somewhere around $68,000 to $70,000 is in play at that point. Absolutely an actionable area to start looking for as an area of interest. And, that's just kind of this zone down here, right? Now, I'm not married to that idea. We would have to see Bitcoin actually break down and start getting expansion, even on higher term timeframes, right? We can see that the lower second is right there at the prior cycle. This is not a prior cycle. It felt like a damn cycle. But the prior range high area from the accumulation structure last year at 73,835. We have the lower second. We're still in a compression phase here on the weekly. And what we're looking for here on the weekly is continued closes above the lower first, maybe even a flattening out of the bands here. The lower first is at right around $83,000. Anywhere below there on a closing basis, it's very highly likely that we'll see the lower second if it hasn't already been hit. Sunday's the close, but if it hasn't already been hit, we're likely to see it hit. It's probably going to continue up here on Sunday and get right in and around maybe $74,000, $75,000. That would be a likely area to get tagged. And then any closes below the lower second would be expansion into a support zone, right? 68 to that 73,835. On the weekly, what bulls really preferably for the bulls here, we have higher high, higher low structure in place on a close. We now have a lower low, but we don't yet have a lower low close. Obviously, closing anywhere here or lower is a lower low close. Where does it need to close above in order to preserve the higher low closing structure It's about 93,563. So it's not about, it actually is 93,563 in this case. That would still keep it in higher low closing structure with a lower low swing and a big one at that. At minimum, I would like, even if it is a lower low close, because we have a lower low close here, but with a higher high swing, we're looking at, exactly what this is, which is a compression phase on the weekly. Yes, with a very volatile move, but let's not forget we started down here in this compression phase at $52,000 on the swing, 52,500, and ripped all the way up to that high of 109, 360 or so, right? That's a big volatile move up. So in the context of the weekly, this is compression. Closes below the lower first would be the etchings of expansion down into support here. Closing below the lower second would be more aggressive expansion down into the support and possibly back into this range. I'm not married to that idea right now. We have to see it happen. And I'm not going to get into like the fundamental reasons why I think that some of the really low prices are kind of ridiculous right now, but maybe it's something we can entertain on Monday. The area that I want to see is Bitcoin in the strong half of the bands, essentially above $93,000 where the basis is. That's also where the daily lower high is right now at $93,000. So that's where the weekly basis band is. Closing back above there would look really good, by the way, on the weekly with two giant swings down. And then, of course, from the weekly perspective, as it stands right now, this will update on Monday, but back above the upper first puts it above the lower high close here at just around that 102.5, 103 area, and likely going to test the highs up towards that upper second standard deviation, which will compress. Right now it's at 112. I expect it to be somewhere around 110 or something like that. Maybe it flattens out right here at 112, but it looks as though it could still, depending on where Bitcoin closes, the closer the price action closes to the basis, the more likely it is that we're going to see the upper and lower second standard deviations here actually compress a little bit more. If we do get a close underneath the basis band, we're likely going to see the upper second swoop down and maybe the lower second start to flatten a bit in terms of volatility, kind of really getting confluence with some of those key areas of interest in terms of support and resistance. And, obviously this would be, the etchings of a downtrend on the weekly, but much like I talked about last year with this structure here, it's bullish. This is bullish. Why is it bullish? Because it's a higher low structure. We also have on the monthly, by the end of the month here in March, we want to see Bitcoin preferably closing above the upper first. If it closes right around it, we're likely to see the upper first kind of pass price action here, putting us in the zone of volatility between the upper first and the high side of this structure to the basis band, which is, right around 62,600, which is above electrical cost floor. That is the median for the bands right here. We'll see. It's still a long month to go, and I do think that there's some opportunity to be had if Bitcoin does start to really get in towards that 68 to 73, 835. You can refine the numbers. We could get more specific. I do have very specific targets in those areas, but it's not really interesting right now at this particular moment. And we'll just kind of take that area of interest here and just kind of show you on the daily here from that accumulation structure with a fib pole. We've got some key areas that Bitcoin is still kind of hanging around in terms of fib extensions. On the daily, we see that we have the 1272 down here at 82.5. So again, 82 to anywhere below 82, we're kind of looking at $80,000 to $82,000 and possibly dropping this low towards that lower second standard deviation. I'm not convinced that this doesn't need a consolidation if it's going to break down in earnest and not just on a wick basis. So like if it starts to get down towards the lower second or even lower third, at 76, or as this expands down, maybe $75,000, I'm not convinced that this is a closing move just yet. It would be more of a swing move or a wick move, because I need to see some compression. We're already in mean reversion. We've mean reverted to the basis. I need to see this compress some more if I'm looking for like a reaccumulation down lower. So I'm watching price pretty closely. I suggest you do as well. Regain that 1414 at $87,500, which is right here at the close open consolidation before this nice higher low, just after the first bear candle that we got from the expansion phase from that prior range. So we got the first bear candle that's $85,000, where Bitcoin has kind of been testing. Had two giant candles there. There's the 10,500 and the 9,500 candle from Sunday into Monday of this week, kind of basing off $85,000. It's been retested, a couple times this week, or a few times this week. Might even get retested here over the weekend. We'll see if that starts to fall apart. Then we're looking, probably 80 to 82. Keep an eye on that swing low at 81,444. If that is dropped, we're either running this low down towards 80 and 78,000, or we're either already running it or very highly likely going to run it. And you can see the bands are down there to catch this kind of from a volatility level, kind of right in the middle there between 80,000 and 82, coming in at $81,000. Closes below there would be expansion down to retest this low and possibly a little bit lower. I'd still be looking for a consolidation though, at some point before like a reaccumulation down lower, kind of in this zone between that 68 to 73 or so, and possibly into the range there a little bit more, digging into that range. But yeah, so keep an eye on 81,444. And then for bulls, you want to keep an eye on this, whether you're bullish or bearish, at 81,444. But bulls, what do you need to do? We need to go, and if we're bullish, we need to go break $93,000, regain that weekly at 93.5, and start working back into the range here on a trend break basis, and then see some higher low structure continue to develop from there. That's all I got for you. You have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all that being said, Landy out. Take care.